Hello there. Today I'm starting a look at a few Chablis from the cooperative La Chablisienne, and this is a 1er Cru from the 1er Cru Beauroy. The vintage here is 2018. Now La Chablisienne are the largest producer of Chablis. It's a cooperative that was created in 1926 when a group of small producers got together under the leadership of Abbé Balitrand, their priest. It started as sort of a marketing and sales exercise. They would combine their wines, blend them and sell them. So the wines were made individually, and it wasn't until the 1950s that the cooperative actually took a part in making the wines themselves. Now today they've got a wonderful modern winery with quite a large capacity. In fact, they've got almost double the capacity they need, and that sort of gives them some real operational flexibility to do whatever they need, so without sort of compromising. They've got enough tank space to work as they want to. And today the cooperative has about 300 members, and they control almost a quarter of Chablis vineyards. That's about 1,200 hectares or so. The range that they make is about 40 wines, and that sort of starts obviously with Petit Chablis and goes right the way through quite a large range of 1er Crus, almost bewilderingly so, to some Grand Cru wines, so right the way through the quality spectrum. And these wines have a good reputation, both in terms of the quality of the wines made and their age-worthiness. So La Chablisienne generally reckoned to be a producer to look out for. Beauroy is as a 1er Cru, it can be either a single climat or it can be seen as an umbrella name for 3 climats. Beauroy itself, which actually sits on a spur of a hill at the end of a valley running from Bain down to Poinchy, where the Rue de Bain, the small tributary of the Seran River, meets the main river. And that is a sort of a U-shaped vineyard that faces southeast, but also the term Beauroy can be applied as an umbrella to two neighbouring 1er Cru, the Côte de Savant and Troyes, which can be marketed under their own name but are more normally sold as Beauroy. The vineyards here are south to southeast facing. They're fairly steep hillsides, not quite as steep as in some places. They're very typical Kimmeridgian chalk soils, so they're quite, they hold water well but don't give it out to the vine particularly well. They're not high in nutrient, and so they're quite devigorating soils. The vines that La Chablisienne have planted here have an average age of 25 years, and the 1er Cru appellation regulations restrict yields anyway, so we're talking about sort of low yielding fruit from mature vines here. The site, as I say, is a southeastern facing, predominantly hillside. Chalk soils warm up quite well. The drainage ensures that the site doesn't get too wet, being a hillside, but also allows frost to drain away. The other thing is that in 1978 the locals built a small artificial lake in the valley here, and that supplies sufficient water to counter frost. If there's a frost, there are sprinklers throughout the vineyard, and there's sufficient water in this lake to ensure that the vines can be coated in a layer of ice which protects the nascent buds from freezing. They can't go below 0 because they're encapsulated in ice. So that's a means of preventing frost damage that's used here. The fruit is will be handpicked from the hillside sites. It'll need to be, and the juice is allowed to settle so that clean juice is fermented. Fermentation takes place in a combination of both tank and in oak, so I'm assuming that's barrel. There is no detail determining this. And the wine ages for 12 months with its fine lees, both in barrel and in tank, and the two portions are combined to create the final wine. at the end of that. So looking at the wine, we have a palish yellow colour there. One might suggest there are slight green hints, but only just. Swirling the wine, it's not clinging to the glass too heavily. This is a wine that's at 13% alcohol. So let's have a look at the aroma, shall we? To me, there are two elements there initially. There's a fresh, citric, lemony note, almost sort of lemon pith, combined with a slightly dairy note that would be the yeast lees that have been in suspension there for a year, giving that sort of almost slightly milky, slightly yogurty note. And the two of those combine. I suppose there's a slight mineral note as well, which you can put down to fermentation aromas, I guess. So let's have a taste. The wine's absolutely bone dry, and to emphasise that, there's a real tartness to the acidity as well. So, you know, there's quite a mouth-watering presence on the front of the tongue there. The fruit is almost a sort of a maybe a touch like a pear, slightly. The tartness, and a little bit of the sort of slightly chalky, slightly phenolic texture. It's not pronounced, but there's a very fine richness to the texture there. Yet the wine is not hugely weighty. I mean, that's light to medium bodied. It's not big for a 1er Cru Chablis, and I mean, in general, Beauroy is reckoned to be a good 1er Cru, but not to be as weighty as say Montmand or Vaillant or something like that. So very typical. The acidity is fresh, and it's keeping the sort of slightly peary, slightly citric notes of the fruit going, and the mouth-watering notes of the acidity is still playing there on the back of my tongue very happily. The alcohol's in balance. It's quite a linear wine. There's not a lot of breadth. There is that sort of, I suppose, a smoothness from that slightly milky nature, but it's not giving the wine great weight. And the length is good, but it's a fine, long, elegant finish. It's not big and rich and heavy. So yeah, in terms of a Chablis, the lighter end of the weightiness of a 1er Cru style, with touches of leesiness. There's no oak influence really coming through, so I'm assuming the aging is therefore an old oak. And yes, this is lean, it's fresh, and that cut, that bite from that lovely crisp acidity is still lasting with me there. So yeah, that was Chablis 1er Cru Beauroy from La Chablisienne, and that was the 2018 vintage of that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you find it interesting, and I hope you'll join me as I taste through some more wines from La Chablisienne in the near future. Do please leave your comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Do like and share the video. Do join up and follow us on YouTube. So yeah, hopefully see you again soon. Bye now.